Welcome, guests. Welcome to my review for American Horror Story, Season 5, known as Hotel, Episode 7, titled Flicker. This was a really great episode. Another episode that was rich in backstory and not too terribly rich in violence. It was fantastic. So this episode was written by Crystal Liu, and it was directed by Michael Gall. Now, again, spoiler, if you don't want to know what happens in this episode and you haven't seen it, go watch it. Don't read or don't watch this review. You have been warned. Okay, so Will Drake is doing construction still on the hotel, which I understand. It takes a while, when you go through construction. But he has came across a big steel wall, and he tells the construction workers to get through it. They get through it. Ironically, it just takes two men. And what they see in front of them is this long, dark hallway. They go inside and are drained by two hungry vampires that have been on the other side of the wall since the 1920s. Now, we find out that the vampires on the other side of the wall are Rudolph Valentino and Natasha Rambova. They were two actors in Hollywood in 1925. This goes to the Countess's backstory, okay? So these two vampires, once they're unearthed, so to speak, they start eating their way out of the hotel, and we'll get to their victims here in just a moment. But their backstory is revealed before they start eating their way out of the hotel. Okay, so Natasha and Valentino were actors, and they were married. Lady Gaga was an actress before she became Lady Gaga, or the Countess. So she fell in love with Valentino and Natasha, more really with Valentino than with Natasha. Okay, so Valentino suddenly dies. This is, like I said, 1925. And the Countess is upset. And at this time is when James Patrick March starts courting her from the Hotel Cortez. And she marries him right after Valentino dies in horrible grief. She does it, I guess, to get rid of her grief. But it does not stop her from visiting his grave, Valentino's grave. And a year after he dies, Natasha finally reveals herself to the Countess, and so does Valentino. He reveals himself to her as well. And I think it's funny. Natasha calls the Countess her little mouse, and meaning that Natasha is the cat and the Countess is the mouse. I thought that was, pretty cool. So Valentino tells the Countess a story. So Valentino supposedly died while on tour for his for a publicity tour for his movie that was coming out the year that he died. And he said that on that publicity tour, he met a man who was a German film director who spoke Italian with a thick German accent. And his name was F.W. Murnau, I guess that's how you enunciate it. And he wanted to preserve Valentino from talking pictures. And I think it's important for you guys to know that while Valentino is telling this story to the Countess, it's being told in flicker picture, which were basically what silent movie pictures were called before the talking movie ones came out. Okay. So real quickly, and spoiler if you haven't seen Freak Show, Elsa, the Freak Show carnival director, said that her legs were dismembered for a snuff film. And I wonder if that director is the same director that wanted to preserve Valentino. So I'm going to try to go back to Freak Show. Maybe you guys can post something here for me to kind of help me out. But I think I'm going to do a video on that soon, because I think that's a really great link to Freak Show and possibly Asylum. The name F.W. Murnau sounds very familiar, and I swear it links back to Asylum. So I'd have to watch that series again to find out. But again, it was fantastic. So after Valentino tells the Countess this story, Valentino and Natasha ask the Countess to leave her marriage with James March and come away with them to, I believe it was Europe. I'm not 100% positive, but I think they asked her to go to Europe with them. And she agrees. Now, I don't know if they made her a vampire then when they asked her to go with them, because they kind of had this erotic threesome moment at his, well, not his gravesite, I guess we're in the mortuary where his ashes were put. I guess it's a mausoleum. I apologize. So I don't know if they turned her into if they gave her the blood disease then. I wish I remembered, or possibly it was some sort of an erotic scene. I'm not exactly sure. But the next day, the Countess goes to meet Valentino and Natasha, and they never show up to go with her and leave James March. Now, unbeknownst to the Countess, March heard their entire conversation, and he takes Natasha and Valentino and puts them in a hallway in the hotel that's been bricked up, and basically it's been soundproofed, and he puts a steel wall up so they can't get out, and they have been stuck there since the 1920s. And March did this because he did not want his wife, the Countess, to leave him. Now, the Countess had no idea that James March did this. So at the end of the episode, we come to learn that March and the Countess have an agreement. They come together once a month to have dinner and have conversation. That's how much, I guess, he adores her and loves her. And to really piss her off, he tells her, before she came to the dinner, she saw that the wall had been taken down and there were dead bodies inside there of the construction workers, and she wondered what was in there and what killed the men. So at the dinner, James March tells her just to piss her off, and it works. She goes nuts. But there's really nothing that she can do to James March because, after all, he's already dead. So like I said, he confesses this to her, and it's just a great scene between them two. Anyway, Marcy is back, people. Marcy, the realtor from hell. I mean, my God, she's the one who sold the family and murder house, their house, and then she sold Will Drake the Hotel Cecil. She was the realtor in both of those. Anyway, as part of her commission, she's on the phone with her friend Margaret, which I wonder if that's the same Margaret that referred the Countess to have an abortion with Dr. Montgomery in the murder house. I think it's odd that Margaret is the one who referred the Countess to Dr. Montgomery, and now Marcy is talking to a Margaret on the phone back from home near the murder house. So anyway, so she gets a free weekend as part of her commission. And so the one-liner of the week does go to Marcy, bless her heart. So after she hangs up the phone with Margaret, she says, "I hate that bitch." That was a great line, Marcy. Really great line. Okay, so Valentino and Natasha, though, knock on Marcy's door, and Marcy opens it thinking that it's the champagne that she's ordered, but it's not. It's hungry vampires who devour her, and many other hotel guests on their way out. And also, at this point, we get confirmation that people, when you die in the hotel, your soul stays there. Unfortunately, you can never leave. So now, since Marcy has died in the hotel, I wonder if we are going to see her spirit again. Excuse me, just a little thought. Okay, and before I get to John, okay, that's it. Last thing now is John. John is being he's being evaluated at a mental hospital, a sanatorium. He's there because he thinks the Ten Commandments killer is there. Earlier in the episode, he gets in a fight with his partner, and he gets a look at the Ten Commandment killer file that falls open, and you see that the suspect has remained at the sanitarium for this time. Okay, remained. He's been admitted. I apologize. I guess I'm going a little too fast sometimes. So John gets into the private room where the suspect is being held, but he sees Wren there. And Wren is the one girl that is the Countess's kid from, the little village of the damn kids with the little white hair and dressed all in black. So she's the only one girl, and her name is Wren. And she explains to John We see it in her mind. Excuse me, she doesn't explain it to John, but we see it in her memory that in 1986, the Countess saved Wren from her father. He was a very bad man, and he was going to do bad things to Wren when she got older. And he left her in a car with all the windows rolled up in the heat of the day to go drinking at the Hotel Cortez. She was going to asphyxiate, and the Countess saved her. So she explains to John, Wren does, that she helped the killer and that if John will get her out of the sanitarium, she will take John to his house. He gets her out of the hospital, and Wren tells him that the killer's home is the Hotel Cortez. And she asks John if he's going to kill the killer, and John says he will if he has to. And then she hates to see him go. And then she turns around and she runs right into traffic, and she lets a car run over her and kill her, which leaves a complete shock to the end of the episode. But that was a great little ending right there. That was a big shock. You know, for a slow background episode, they leave you with a huge shock. So again, great episode. Didn't have a lot of violence and action, but it was very rich with detail. And I think it was extraordinary. I love these kinds of episodes. Don't get me wrong, episode 1 and 2 and all those, the Halloween episodes where they were violent and crazy. Those were great episodes. But I prefer the ones that are rich in detail because I want to see if I can guess the ending. I don't go online and read spoilers on Google or anything like that. I want to see if I'm smart enough to figure out the writer's logic. I don't know, maybe that should be a reality show competition. That's just something that I like to do. So if you would like to help me, please thumb up the video. If you'd like more videos, hit subscribe. Certainly comment if you have any questions or send me your questions. But thank you very much for watching my video, and I appreciate it, and look out again for the next episode coming up. Thank you.